Imagine standing at the edge of a vast cliff, the winds of doubt swirling around you. You've been taught to feel guilty, to carry the weight of what others think. But what if I told you that guilt is a cage, and you hold the key? Picture this. Every time you let guilt creep in, you're handing over your power to someone else. Does that feel right? Now take a deep breath and let that feeling of guilt fade. It's not just about what you did or didn't do. It's about how you choose to respond. Stoicism teaches us that external events are beyond our control, yet we often let them dictate our emotions. Why allow someone else's expectations to shape your reality? Think about the moments you felt guilt gnawing at your insides. What if those moments were actually invitations to reflect and grow? As you navigate through life, remember that your worth isn't defined by others. So, what if you could break free from that guilt and embrace who you truly are? Stay with me as we unravel this idea and discover the incredible strength that lies within you. Acceptance of imperfection. You know, one of the toughest pills to swallow in life is accepting that none of us is perfect. I remember the first time I truly confronted this idea. It was during a particularly challenging week at work when I made a mistake that cost my team a lot of time and effort. In that moment, I felt like I was the only one who ever messed up, and it hit me hard. But then I had to remind myself that fallibility is part of being human. Everyone stumbles. It's just a part of our journey. As I started to reflect on this, I realized that holding myself to an impossible standard was only setting me up for disappointment. We often hear about how successful people have failed numerous times before achieving greatness, and somehow we think we should be exempt from that reality. It was liberating to understand that my mistakes didn't define my worth. Instead of being ashamed of my imperfections, I began to embrace them as a part of my unique story. Accepting imperfection also means being kinder to ourselves. When we mess up, it's easy to fall into a negative spiral of self-criticism. But what if, instead of chastising ourselves, we could look at our errors with a gentle perspective? I've started to see my mistakes not as failures, but as opportunities for growth. Every misstep is a chance to learn something new about myself and the world around me. This mindset shift didn't happen overnight. It took practice and a lot of conscious effort. I had to train my brain to reject the notion that perfection was attainable. Now, I often share this insight with friends who struggle with their own flaws. It's reassuring to hear them realize that they, too, are part of this imperfect tapestry of human existence. Finally, accepting imperfection has opened my eyes to the beauty of life's unpredictability. Each flaw and failure adds color and depth to our experiences. I've come to appreciate the messy moments as much as the triumphs, understanding that they all contribute to who I am today. Control over emotions. Navigating the sea of emotions can be quite the challenge, can't it? I used to get swept away by every wave of feeling, letting my mood dictate my day. However, I gradually learned that not everything is within my control. Understanding what I can influence versus what I cannot has been a game changer for me. It's like finding a calm in the storm, realizing that my reactions are the one thing I can manage. When I first started to differentiate between these aspects, I noticed a significant shift in how I handled stress. For instance, if someone cut me off in traffic, I could either choose to let that ruin my day or just let it go. I remember a day when I was stuck in traffic, and my initial instinct was to fume and stress about it. Then, I paused and thought about how pointless that was. The traffic was beyond my control, but my response was entirely mine to shape. Learning to manage my emotions also meant acknowledging them without letting them overwhelm me. I began practicing mindfulness techniques to observe my feelings without judgment. This approach allowed me to sit with discomfort rather than react impulsively. One of the most liberating experiences was when I realized that I could feel anger or frustration and still choose how to respond. This journey has also made me more empathetic toward others. When I see someone struggling with their emotions, it's easier to remind myself that everyone has their battles. We're all just trying to navigate our feelings in a world that often feels chaotic. This understanding has improved my relationships, as I can approach others with more compassion rather than judging. Ultimately, embracing this control over my emotional landscape has led to a healthier, more balanced life. I now recognize that while I can't control every situation, I can control my reaction. This realization has empowered me to face challenges with a newfound strength and resilience. Self-compassion. Self-compassion is a concept that I've come to cherish over the years. It's funny how we can be our harshest critics, isn't it? I used to carry around a heavy backpack of guilt and shame from my past mistakes, thinking that if I beat myself up enough, I would somehow change or improve. But that approach only led to more pain. Learning to practice self-compassion has been a revelation for me. When I first read about self-compassion, I was skeptical. Could being kind to myself really make a difference? But I decided to give it a shot. I started by treating myself the way I would treat a close friend who was struggling. If they made a mistake, I wouldn't berate them. I'd offer support and understanding instead. Slowly, I began to extend that same kindness to myself, realizing that I too deserved compassion. One of the most profound shifts occurred when I began to acknowledge that everyone faces difficulties. It's easy to feel isolated in our struggles, but the truth is that we're all navigating this messy human experience together. By recognizing that I'm not alone in my challenges, I found a sense of solidarity with others. This realization has transformed how I handle setbacks. Now, instead of wallowing in guilt, I remind myself that it's okay to stumble. Self-compassion also involves forgiving ourselves for our mistakes. I've learned to reflect on what went wrong without getting caught up in a cycle of blame. Instead of dwelling on my failures, I focus on what I can learn from them. This shift has not only lightened my emotional load, but has also made me more resilient. With time and practice, self-compassion has become a cornerstone of my emotional well-being. It's like having a safety net that catches me when I fall. I've become more accepting of my flaws and have grown to appreciate the journey of self-discovery. After all, being human means being imperfect, and that's perfectly okay. Focus on the present. You know, there's something incredibly liberating about really focusing on the present moment. I mean, how often do we find ourselves stuck in the past, replaying old mistakes or worrying about what's to come? I used to be the king of this. I'd sit there, lost in thought, agonizing over decisions I made years ago, or stressing out about a future that hadn't even arrived yet. It's like I was living my life in a constant state of anxiety, when all I really had was this moment right in front of me. When I started practicing being present, everything shifted. It was as if a weight had been lifted off my shoulders. I learned to appreciate the small things, the warmth of the sun on my skin, the laughter of a friend, the taste of my morning coffee. These moments became my anchors, grounding me in the now. I realized that by focusing on what was happening at this very second, I could let go of the burdens of the past and the fears of the future. It was refreshing, almost like rediscovering the joy of living. Now, embracing the present doesn't mean ignoring my responsibilities or future plans. It simply means that I learned to prioritize my attention. I give myself permission to enjoy today without the shadow of yesterday looming over me. I can plan for tomorrow, but I do it with a clear mind, rather than being wrapped up in worries. That's when I found clarity and purpose in what I do. My productivity soared, and my relationships deepened because I was fully present with the people around me. In conversations, I've noticed that when I'm truly engaged in the moment, I hear things I would have missed otherwise. I connect better with others, and those interactions become richer. It's almost magical how focusing on the present can transform not just my internal world, but also my external relationships. I've come to understand that life happens now, not in the regrets of yesterday or the anxieties of tomorrow. So I challenge you to give it a try. Take a moment, breathe, and just be here. Notice what's around you, what you're feeling, and what you're thinking. It's a practice, and like any skill, it takes time to develop. But trust me, the rewards are worth it. Value of lessons learned. Isn't it funny how we often view our mistakes as the worst things that could happen to us? I used to carry this heavy backpack filled with guilt and regret over every misstep I made. But one day, it hit me. Every single one of those errors was a stepping stone, not a stumbling block. They were lessons waiting to be learned if I was willing to change my perspective. When I started to see my mistakes as opportunities for growth, a whole new world opened up. Each blunder became a chapter in my personal development story. I began to analyze what went wrong, why it happened, and what I could do differently next time. It's like having a personal coach who never lets me forget my training sessions. This shift in mindset made me more resilient. Instead of fearing failure, I embraced it. And that's a game changer. Now, I find myself sharing these lessons with others. Instead of wallowing in regret, I talk about what I've learned, almost like a badge of honor. It's empowering to realize that our experiences, good or bad, shape who we are. I've seen how this approach not only helps me, but also inspires those around me. We start to create a culture where mistakes are not just tolerated, but celebrated as essential parts of the journey. It's also refreshing to recognize that nobody is perfect. We're all in this together, learning and growing. When I hear someone openly discuss their failures and what they've learned, it creates a sense of camaraderie. It reminds me that we're all human, and it's okay to stumble. The key is to pick ourselves back up, dust ourselves off, and keep moving forward, armed with newfound wisdom. So, instead of seeing mistakes as burdens, let's embrace them as teachers. Each time you slip up, ask yourself, what can I take away from this? This simple question can transform your entire outlook on life. By valuing the lessons learned, you'll find that even the toughest moments can lead to the most profound growth. Detachment from external opinions. There was a time when I was overly concerned with what others thought of me. It was exhausting. I was constantly seeking validation, tweaking my actions and molding my personality to fit the expectations of those around me. But then I realized that this need for external validation was like trying to fill a bottomless pit. It never satisfied me. I had to break free from that cycle. Learning to detach from the opinions of others has been one of the most liberating experiences of my life. I remember the first time I consciously chose to ignore a critical comment. It felt strange at first, almost like I was losing a part of myself. But then I found strength in my own convictions. I began to understand that my worth isn't defined by the fleeting opinions of others. This realization was like a breath of fresh air. Now, I focus on being true to myself instead of performing for an audience. It's not that I don't care about what people think. Rather, I prioritize my own values and beliefs. When I make decisions, I ask myself, does this align with who I am? If the answer is yes, then I move forward, regardless of external judgment. This self-affirmation has given me the confidence to pursue my passions without hesitation. Detaching from external opinions has also deepened my relationships. I've become more authentic in my interactions, and I've attracted people who appreciate me for who I genuinely am. The facade of trying to please everyone has crumbled, and in its place, I've built connections that are real and meaningful. It's refreshing to be around people who love and accept me without strings attached. So, if you find yourself caught in the web of seeking validation, remember this. Your value is intrinsic and not contingent upon others' opinions. Embrace your uniqueness, stand firm in your beliefs, and let go of the need for approval. You'll discover a sense of freedom that allows you to live life on your own terms, and that's where true happiness lies. Stoic principles of virtue. You know, I've often found myself caught up in the whirlwind of social expectations. It's easy to lose sight of what truly matters when you're constantly seeking approval from those around you. Stoicism teaches us to prioritize virtue over social acceptance, and that resonates deeply with me. When I think about my day-to-day choices, I realize how often I've let the opinions of others dictate my actions. There's a liberating power in focusing on living ethically, rather than chasing after fleeting validation. Living according to Stoic principles means aligning my actions with my core beliefs. For example, when I face dilemmas, I try to ask myself whether my choices reflect my values. Am I acting with integrity? Am I being honest and fair? This self-reflection encourages me to rise above external pressures, and I find that it fosters a sense of inner peace. I'm learning to embrace the idea that my worth isn't determined by what others think of me, but rather by how I choose to live my life. I've also come to appreciate that every interaction and decision is an opportunity to express my virtues. When I engage with people, I strive to show kindness and understanding, even when it's challenging. It's not always easy, but I've noticed that when I focus on virtue, I become more resilient to the judgments of others. It's as if I've built an emotional shield that protects me from the negativity that can easily seep in if I'm not careful. Moreover, living virtuously has had a ripple effect on my relationships. I attract people who share similar values, and that creates a community based on mutual respect and understanding. It's refreshing to connect with others on a deeper level, rather than engaging in superficial interactions driven by social approval. This shift in perspective has made my life richer and more fulfilling, and I'm grateful for the insights Stoicism has provided. Ultimately, embracing Stoic principles of virtue encourages me to lead a life of purpose. It reminds me to focus on what I can control, my actions and my responses, rather than what's beyond my grasp. I feel empowered knowing that I can choose to act with integrity, regardless of the external noise. This journey toward virtue is ongoing, but each step feels like a victory in reclaiming my sense of self. The impermanence of life. The notion of impermanence is both daunting and liberating. Life is fleeting, and the weight of past choices can sometimes feel overwhelming. I've wrestled with guilt over decisions I made, but Stoicism teaches us that clinging to those feelings doesn't change the past. Instead, it's about recognizing that life is a series of moments, all transient in nature. Embracing this reality has helped me let go of burdens that no longer serve me. When I reflect on my past, I realize how easy it is to get trapped in a cycle of regret. I used to replay my mistakes in my mind, wishing I could rewrite certain chapters. However, understanding the impermanence of life has allowed me to shift my perspective. Each moment is an opportunity for growth, and dwelling on the past only hinders my ability to move forward. I remind myself that the only constant in life is change, and with that comes the chance to evolve. I've also started to appreciate the beauty in the fleeting nature of life. Moments of joy, sadness, success, and failure all contribute to the rich tapestry of my experiences. Instead of fearing the end of a chapter, I've learned to savor the present and cherish what's happening now. This mindset has transformed my outlook, allowing me to find peace in the knowledge that nothing lasts forever, and that's perfectly okay. Additionally, practicing gratitude for the present has become a cornerstone of my life. I often take a step back and acknowledge the things I have right now, rather than fixating on what I've lost or missed out on. This shift in focus cultivates a deeper appreciation for the people and experiences that enrich my life. It's a reminder that every moment, whether good or bad, is a valuable part of my journey. In recognizing the impermanence of life, I've discovered a newfound freedom. I no longer feel shackled by past mistakes, as I understand that they are merely fragments of a larger narrative. This acceptance allows me to approach each day with an open heart, ready to embrace whatever comes my way. It's a powerful realization that life is not about clinging to the past, but about living fully in the present. Practice of Stoic mindfulness. The practice of mindfulness has become an essential part of my daily routine, and I owe much of that to Stoic philosophy. It's incredible how much clarity can be gained by simply observing my thoughts and feelings without judgment. When I first began to practice mindfulness, I was surprised by the chaos that often swirled within my mind. But through the lens of Stoicism, I've learned to accept those thoughts as they are, rather than letting them dictate my actions. Incorporating mindfulness into my life has helped me cultivate a sense of calm amidst the storms. I've started to approach challenges with a more balanced perspective, allowing me to respond thoughtfully instead of reacting impulsively. For instance, during stressful situations, I take a few moments to breathe deeply and center myself. This simple act creates space between my feelings and my responses, enabling me to choose how I want to engage with the world around me. One of the most profound lessons I've learned through this practice is the importance of acceptance. Life is unpredictable, and there are elements beyond my control. By embracing this truth, I've freed myself from the frustration of trying to control every outcome. Instead, I focus on accepting reality as it is, which has significantly reduced my anxiety and increased my overall sense of well-being. I've also found that practicing mindfulness allows me to be more present in my interactions with others. I'm more attuned to their feelings and needs, which fosters deeper connections. Whether it's a simple conversation or a challenging discussion, being mindful helps me listen actively and respond with empathy. This not only enhances my relationships, but also enriches my understanding of the human experience. Ultimately, the practice of Stoic mindfulness serves as a guiding light in my life. It reminds me that I have the power to shape my perspective and responses, even in the face of adversity. Embracing each moment as it comes without judgment or attachment has led to a more fulfilling existence. As I continue on this journey, I'm grateful for the tools Stoicism provides, allowing me to cultivate a tranquil mind and a resilient spirit. And there you have it. As we wrap up our journey through the Stoic perspective on guilt, let's take a moment to reflect. How often do we let guilt hold us back from our true potential? Remember, feeling guilty is a natural human emotion, but it doesn't define who we are or what we can achieve. So, I challenge you. Next time guilt creeps in, pause and ask yourself, what can I learn from this? Embrace the Stoic mindset and turn those feelings into fuel for growth. Imagine how liberating it would be to let go of guilt and focus on what really matters, your actions and choices in the present. Now I want to hear from you. Have you ever struggled with guilt in your own life? What Stoic principles have helped you navigate those feelings? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Your insights might just inspire someone else in our community. And hey, if you found this video valuable, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe for more wisdom on Stoicism and personal growth. Let's embark on this journey together. Until next time, keep questioning, keep growing, and remember, your peace of mind is worth fighting for.